The Fed's interest rate hike of 0.75 of a percentage point yesterday.
Normally, this rise in interest rates.
So if we're not heading into a recession, why hike interest rates?
Raising interest rates again this week.
Raise interest rates for the fourth time this year.
Real estate agents with rising interest rates. How do you deal with buyer objections about this? Well, in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to do that. And guess what? The historical comparison that a lot of people are making, while that can work, I've got a lot better ways of handling this new objection. Stay tuned. All right, so at the beginning of 2022, interest rates began an upward movement that is bigger than we've ever seen in terms of how fast they have gone up from those historic lows. You know, it was only a year ago we were seeing rates in the threes, low threes, sometimes even into the twos. And, you know, all of a sudden in the span of 3 or 4 months, they went from 3 to 4 to 5. In some places 6%, right? So that's a big increase for a lot of people. So a lot of buyers have fears, uncertainty, doubts around that. And your job as a real estate agent is to effectively deal with those objections. All right, so the first thing that you need to make sure you point out to buyers, especially first-time home buyers, is the cost of rent. Because guess what? Rents are going up at even greater and even more historically greater prices and rates than mortgage rates, right? Rents have skyrocketed. That's why you've seen the value of multifamily buildings skyrocket, right? They're making a lot more income. Well, guess what? The interest rate on rent is 100%, right? So if you don't like the 6%, does it really make sense to go out and pay 100% interest rate on your rents? Okay, so buyers need to compare, right, what their alternative would be, and then also factor in that in a rent scenario, you're still subjected to future price increases, where buying a house, you're going to be locked in at your cost of living. The second big point I think that buyers need to know is that in most scenarios with interest rates and prices, as a buyer, you win, okay? Well, let me tell you what I mean by that. If interest rates continue to move up, right, after you've bought, well, guess what? You're locked in at a lower interest rate. You win. If home prices go up, you've locked in the price of your home. You win. If interest rates go down, but prices of the home stay about the same or even go up, which they probably would go up, right? If interest rates go down, that's probably going to drive demand, probably push prices up. But, you know, if they go down, you might say, well, guess what? I could have got a lower rate. Well, you can always refinance, right? You still win in that scenario. The only possible way you win, and it's most likely a short-term win, because if you hold the real estate for a long time, ultimately you will win out. But the only way to even get a chance at a short-term win is if you have a scenario where both interest rates and the home prices both go down. And that, I think, is a highly unlikely scenario. It would just be, you know, very, very rare to see a situation where the cost to get a mortgage goes down, and yet despite that, there's all these other factors that still push home prices lower. I think that's, you know, a low possibility, and no one really can, you know, call a shift or predict a bottom like that. So I think that's a dangerous game, and I think if you're playing the law of probability in most scenarios, you know, you win by buying now versus continuing to rent. All right. The third thing I think that you need to do as a buyer agent, or when you're an agent working with buyers, is reset their expectations, right? You know, they can't go out and have the same spending power with a 6% mortgage as they did a year ago at a 4% mortgage. You know, reality is they probably should have bought a year ago. I know life circumstances change, so maybe that's, maybe it wasn't possible back then, or they moved or job switch or school or, whoever, right? Whatever. They are where they are. Okay. But I think, it's important to just have an honest conversation with them, figure out what their buying power is and show them what they can buy, show them what's sold in the last 30, 60, 90 days at those price points. And guess what? They might have to, opt for a smaller home or go from a home to a townhome, or, instead of a 3-bedroom, they get a 2-bedroom and den, right? So you need to reset their expectations on that. And then finally, I do think historical context matters, and it's important to understand now. Just because interest rates were 16, 17, 18% 40 years ago, that doesn't necessarily mean it's relevant today. That doesn't help them, right? Necessarily when it is, 25, 30% more expensive to get a mortgage now than a year ago. But it does put context into things, right? 6% still is historically low. I think it lets them understand that there is more room for rates to go up than down, although both are possible. And while you're pointing out the historical context, I think you also need to really educate your buyers on what prices of real estate have done long term, right? And that gets back to that point I made earlier. Even if they do get lucky and wait and then buy and rates and prices were lower, in the end, if you're in this long term, which I think every real estate buyer, investor should be, you're going to win. You're going to do well. So have those conversations with your buyers early in the process before you invest time and they invest time in going out and looking for homes. And I think you'll have a lot more success with these objections. Hit the subscribe button for more videos like this. Leave me some comments. Let me know what you think I got right and wrong and what you want me to cover in future videos. I'll see you next time.